can't see it.
It's okay. It's early. It's still early.
And it should let you let you share. That feels like a tongue twister. Okay, so
Okay.
Kerryn,
Can you see my screen now? Sorry, bear with me for a second while I try and get this.
it might just take a moment. Yeah, try it again because it shows the sharing. So
Okay, moving that one there, so that should be fine. So you should be getting this screen, right? Share.
there it goes. You got it.
Fantastic. Okay, and that's full screen, right?
Yes,
Excellent. Yay, when you get the tech right.
perfect.
So today I am going to, as I was saying, is talking about why leaders and any business owner needs to be using press coverage. And if you're not, what you're missing out on, and to just try and give you a few ideas and try and help your thinking as to what you should be doing, why you should be doing it, and getting yourself over that hurdle of either being too scared to do it or not knowing enough about it. And this will hopefully motivate everybody to do it, because I am so passionate about using PR. And there's a certain point in your business when you do need to take on more press resource. Is when you are a bigger company and you're needing to manage a reputation on a bigger level. But until that point, you can be doing this yourself. So this is what I'm going to focus in. I really believe it's game changing for business owners, that you don't have to be spending money on adverts, and that this gives you the power to get credible and visible, and you can't afford to ignore it as a business leader. So without further ado, I'll tell you a little bit about me and why you should be listening to me today. I've got over 20 years of international experience. I've been working for agencies and in-house. I've worked for global brands like Visa, AIG, Barclaycard, Nestle, Whirlpool, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and many others. So I've worked across quite a few sectors as well. And in the roles, I was also looking after spokespeople and establishing them as thought leaders. And this is something I now help my clients with. I've also managed all the press offices, so that's the media relations side of things. And I've managed the campaigns that we would deliver, and some of these won awards. So the one is that I can mention is contactless. One is the launch of the first mobile payments in the UK. So I totally understand the bigger picture, and I also understand it from being a smaller person and a smaller business as well, where you don't have those huge big budgets, and PR isn't about those budgets when you are at this level just getting press coverage. You can do it without spending a lot of money. And as a business owner myself, I understand the pressures of running a business and all the things that need to be done, from digital marketing to sales to customer services to operations. And where do you put your focus, and where are you going to be making the most impact? And I've got over 10 years of experience of doing operations at the Bank of England, where I managed business planning, I managed performance reporting as well. So I bring this holistic view from all angles to be able to look at your business and say, right, these are the things that you need to be doing. And it's not just about press coverage in its entirety, but for this purpose today, it's about press coverage is the main thing that you should be doing to give yourself that extra edge and putting yourself above your competitors. And getting that return on investment. And it doesn't matter where you are in your business cycle, your business growth cycle. You've built your business, you've been pouring your heart and soul into it. And, most people are sitting there going, I need people to know about what I'm offering, not only because you want to make the money, but because I know so many of these heart-led businesses, and those are the people that I work with, they've got a purpose that their businesses are helping other people. So it's even more important that you are shouting about it and getting your message across. And press coverage helps you to do this. So let's go on and have a look at why it's not just a nice to have, but it's a must have for your business success. And the first one, as I've mentioned a little bit before already, is credibility. And there's two aspects to this. There's the internal business credibility, and then there's the external. And whether you're selling products or services, credibility helps you to get your business where it needs to be for all your stakeholders. So if we look at the external first, and then I'll come back to internal afterwards. But externally, let's pretend you looking for a wellness coach, for example, and you go online, you do a little bit of searching because you've never worked with a wellness coach before, and you're just trying to find who you can work with, and you come across a few different options, and you go back to their website, and now you're trying to decide who to work with. And you've whittled down your decision to 2 people. Which one are you going to work for? Or work with, I should say. Now, if you have a look at these 2 websites, I'm going to guess that you're going to go for the one that has the press coverage. It's got the validation that you need to say, oh, wow, between these 2, this one's been in all this press, therefore they must be credible, they must be brilliant, I'm going to work with them. And I mean, I know I do this myself when I'm looking at other people to work with or businesses. You know, it tells you that by having that press coverage, they've got that validation from a third party. And that outlet is telling their audience that you're a trustworthy profile. So instantly, this credibility gives you trust. And, you know, the audience trusts you because they trust that publication. So you earn that trust immediately by proxy. And we all know that when customers trust you, they buy from you. So this is one way that press coverage is effective, because it's like word of mouth. And word of mouth referrals, we know from studies that consumers trust word of mouth 92% more than they trust advertising. We know this. So this is a huge factor for me why you should be doing press coverage over advertising. And then if we look at the internal side of things, you know, when you're looking for your employees, or if you've got a team, being a CEO or a business leader who has that credibility, it impacts on your organization's reputation, and it makes people want to work with you. And it also helps you to retain that talent, because they feel like, wow, I work for a great organization, they're trusted, they've got a great brand reputation. And then people want to stay and work for you. And also, I mean, a lot of you will know, being in the field that you're in, that retaining talent, you know, it's a lot cheaper than to have to continuously have to recruit and bring people in. So yeah, so it can be a huge morale booster for your employees or for your team. And it makes people want to work with you and gives you that edge when you are recruiting. And for anyone also looking to find investors in your business, or maybe you eventually consider going public, I know investors make sure that any brand that they are investing in has a positive reputation, and having that press coverage gives you that positive reputation, so that they then have the confidence to know that they can back you as well. And then if you're going public as well, it can boost your company's valuation. So it's a really powerful tool in your investor relations arsenal as well. Which then leads me on to visibility, because obviously being visible means you've got greater brand recognition and awareness, which will also help you grow. Now, if we have a look at being visible in the press, I like to think of it in these kind of layers. You know, you've got in the inner circle, you've got your target audience, you've got the people that already know that they have the problem, they're looking for the answers, and those ones are like the low-hanging fruit that you can just target with your messaging and you'll get them in. But with press coverage, you're going out to such a wide circle. You're reaching people that don't even know they have a problem before they know they have the problem. So what will happen is that they then hear you on a radio talking about something, and they go, oh, hold on a second, I identify with that. Oh, I didn't know I had that problem. Oh, who's this person talking? And then they'll pay attention, because they now, you know, it's picking up on the reticular, I can't remember the name, I shouldn't be saying these things when I can't remember the name. But then now they start hearing about it all the time, and they store your name away until they're ready to do something with it. Or they might tell others about it. You know, it's that whole thing about being down the pub, or now in restaurants, or telling your friends, oh, I heard this thing, and then they relay your message to somebody else about what they understood and took from what you said. And then it might even prompt them to take action and come looking for you. So it's really, the press coverage really gets you out. I mean, if you had to do that with advertising, you'd have to pay per click. And obviously we keep our costs down, so you aren't reaching those masses. So we can see here from some of the outlets that you are reaching thousands, if not millions of people. And obviously the bigger the outlet, the more visible you will be. But can you imagine just reaching these numbers, getting your message out to them, which then obviously has the benefit which I'll go through about what it can do for you. Just to say that if you're just starting out and you're maybe not that confident to go for the big names, like a Forbes at first, they also don't take experts until they have a bigger portfolio of press coverage as well. So that's quite okay. So in the beginning, if you're just starting out, it's a very effective strategy to start small. So if you're having a look at the publications you want to get into, like the Forbes, take it a few notches down. Build up your profile with some local press, with some regional press, and then your national press. And then you can go up to the bigger ones as well. But another thing that the press do is that they use local press to find their stories. So there's nothing wrong at all with getting local coverage as well, because that can also then have an impact to stretch and be picked up by other publications as well. And then here's an example of a client who I got onto BBC, and within 7 hours, they'd received over 300 customer inquiries. And while the majority of them were from the UK, where the company is based, there were a good few that came in from other countries. And if you have a look at BBC, you can see here it's got the global ranking, it's got the country rank, it's 4th in the UK, but it's 74 worldwide. So in this day and age, when our businesses are all online, you absolutely need to be getting press coverage and on podcasts that are getting that global reach. Because, like Helen, you're in the UK and you've been a customer of mine. I've got customers in South Africa. I've got customers in Ireland. There are customers all over that we can reach and now sell to as well. And you can see just the variety of countries for each of these publications. I mean, it's Vietnam, it's France, it's not only just the US and the UK. And there's just no boundaries. So for me, it's just a no-brainer to be getting our messages out there. And again, especially if you're a purpose-driven business who are helping other people, like that's, it's very important. So being visible and credible also brings many opportunities. They could lead to being invited to speak on other people's stages. So I spoke on somebody else's stage where I met you, Helen, and now you've invited me to come and speak on your stage. I mean, that's one small example. There's others where I know that they've spoken and had book deals from having these from press coverage as well. You get collaborations and joint ventures with other people who learn about you and they're synchronistic to you, and they've got aligned businesses that you can then work together to take things forward. And there's just no limit on the opportunities that can come from being seen in the press. And I see it time and time and time again. And then, of course, one of the main reasons for getting coverage is to grow your business. And while it's not directly responsible for sales, it does create that halo effect of driving traffic to your website, to your channels. So you'll get more social media followers, and then they're coming from there and they're checking out your offers, and that then leads into the sales with all the trust and the marketing that you do with your emails and your sales funnel as well. And I will just say there that is very key. And that's one of the things that I really do teach with my clients and help them with, is having those breadcrumbs in place so that when you are putting your press coverage out there, you're giving people a way to find you and come back and get back to you somehow. So if they hear you on a radio talk show, how are they finding you on social media channels? How are they going to find your website? How are they going to find your offers or your Facebook group? And having your Facebook set up with those breadcrumbs so that people can easily find you. And I see this so often where people don't have a way for the people that are coming to find them be able to find them. the trail just goes dead. So if you are thinking about doing some press coverage, just make sure, please, that you have those breadcrumbs in place so that people can find you and track down more information. And, you know, from the leads, another benefit of having press coverage and doing PR is SEO. And in case you haven't heard of it before, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And this is where your websites are, you use certain keywords or other enhancements. And this means that the search engines like Google can pick up your website over someone else's and use it in the search result pages. And I'll show you an example here. So you can see I've put in the term, what is SEO? And then it's come back with, I mean, these are just the adverts, but you'll see they've come back with different websites. And that's ideally what will happen. And I'm sure we all know Google, that you've got all the different pages. And the reason why you want to be ranked on the first page of Google is because this will lead to more clicks. And you can see here that 27% of all clicks come from the first page. So that's not a small number, but even within the first 10, I mean, 2%, if you have a look here, there's 19 million search results. So even if you've got on the first 10 pages and you're still getting 2% of those 19 million clicks and results, it's not a small number. So what happens, and this is your article, Helen, that you got, well done, I love it. So when it comes to the SEO, what will happen is that the press coverage online, the articles will use what's called a backlink, and that goes back to your website. And you can see that, yeah, even if you click on your name, that's backlinked to your website, and then they give the website again over there. Now, what will happen is that backlinks act as a vote of confidence for your website. So when other reputable sites like Harness Magazine link to yours, the search engines interpret that as a sign of quality and relevance. So the more high quality backlinks you have, the better your chances are of ranking higher in the search engine results pages, which makes it easier for customers to find you. And this is all for free. As a business owner, you're keeping your expenses down. You don't want to pay for ads at this stage, when you're not at a certain level. Why would you not be using press coverage? It gives you all of these things and it doesn't cost anything. Yes, you can use a PR agency, you can use a freelancer to help you get the PR, but you don't have to. It's really, it's simple, and when I teach my customers, it might not be easy. It takes a bit of time to do some research and actually find out who the right contact is if you're doing manual research. But the actual way of finding the journalists and pitching them, it's actually really simple, and you can do it within a few minutes a day. And this is one of the things I teach. I teach my clients how to do this in as little as 10 minutes a day, and you're getting 100% return on your investment. It's only taking the 5 minutes that it takes you to write the pitch or do a little bit of research and then send it off. So yeah, for me, I'm very passionate, as you can tell, about doing public relations and press outreach, or press coverage, I should say. And then going on to the last little bit is that how do you go about actually getting press coverage? And this is where I break it down into, it's the proactive and it's the reactive outreach. And as I said, it's really not as an expense. You don't need to hire an expensive agency. You know how to do this. Once you know how to do this, and you can do it in a few minutes a day, or some people like to do it only once a week and they just do it like an hour on a Friday morning. Whatever you choose, you can dial up your visibility whenever you need to. So if you're doing a launch, or if you've got a campaign coming out that you just want to have a bit of an injection or get a message out or change people's thoughts on something that you're coming up against all the time, this is great fodder for stories for the press. And then it gives you that little extra boost to get your press coverage out there, to be seen as that industry expert, as a thought leader, and then you get more customers coming back to you. So the first recommendation is to be proactive. And I talked a little bit about this before, but do some research and find the journalists that are talking about your topics and your area of expertise. And this is because then they're more likely to cover what you say. But you need to validate that they are the right person, because some journalists might be covering a beat for somebody else, and for 2 weeks they are talking about your area of expertise, but generally when they're not covering that person's role, they write about something completely different. So how you validate them is you do your research, you see what they write about, and then you go and Google them and just see what other articles they've written. So it's really, that's what I mean by it being simple. It just means a couple more seconds to go and actually have a look and see what other stuff that they've written. And having a look at what they've written actually helps you to personalize your pitches, which is key when you are sending emails out to journalists. You have to personalize. If you don't, it's kind of seen as pray and spray. They think that you haven't taken the time to look at what they write about. And, unfortunately, if they get too many of these, or if you send them something that doesn't even that they've never written about, they will just delete you. And in some cases, they'll block you and your organization. So they'll block your domain name on their emails, and then you'll never be able to contact them again. So personalizing your messages to them tells them that you've done your research. You know that they write about what you talk about, and that means that they're more likely to listen to what you have to say in your email, because they know that you'll make what you talk about relevant to their audience. So it's about helping them to do their job. And you can also then listen to podcasts, and don't just listen to one podcast, listen to 2 or 3, and actually make sure that they cover your topics and your angles as well. And when it comes to being proactive, target the right journalists and target the right publications. I've had customers before who want to target a certain client, but then they go and try and get coverage on things that are just not even related. And yes, that's fine, because you can get the logos, but it doesn't bring people back to you. It's not strategic. So I would always recommend being strategic. Use your time wisely. Don't go and waste your time targeting publications that your customers are never going to read. I just don't see the point in that. Keep focused. And if you don't know who and what your customers are reading or listening to, ask them. Send them an email. Say, hey guys, what's your favorite publication? What's your favorite podcast? Ask on LinkedIn and do a poll, or your social media on Facebook, wherever it is that you are. Or you can just ask them when you speak to them. And that will help you then to build up your list of media publications and outlets that you can then target. And then the other way to do it is to be reactive. And this is when you look for the opportunities where journalists are already working on stories, and they are actively looking for experts to comment or provide stories for the ones that they are writing about. So Helen, for example, got in harness because she's been using my Spotlight service, where the journalists are looking for people to comment on different things, on different topics, and Helen responded and was reactive to what they were looking for. So that does make it a little bit easier to actually, when, rather than searching a little bit in the, where am I looking, you can use those opportunities to then go, right, I can respond to that, I can respond to that. And you can just put these out within a few minutes. It just takes the time to write, hi, this is my answer to your question, or this is a story that I can talk about. Are you interested? It doesn't take long at all. And there are a variety of free and paid for tools that can connect you with these journalists. As I said, I've got a service as well, but there's Haro, and I'm sure some of you have heard about that, but if you haven't, it's Help a Reporter Out. If you just Google Haro, the letters, it will come up with one of those. And another one is Source Bottle. So if you just Google Source Bottle, the only thing I would say with Source Bottle is just make sure that you, on the right-hand side of the web page, is a little drop down for the country that you're in. Just to make sure that it's more relevant. So if you're in UK or America, for example, you don't want to be obviously getting things for Asia or South Africa. So just remember to always toggle that little drop down icon as well. And then last but not least is your outreach. And that's when you're actually dealing with your journalists, is that you are building your relationships with them. And this is how you become the go-to industry expert, is because when you are building those relationships, you're giving them what they want. You have a sense of urgency. they then learn that they can trust you, that they can rely on you to give them what they need in time for their deadlines, and they will come back to you time and time again, and then you get repetition. So I know some people that have been asked to come back and appear on talk show panel 2 seasons in a row. I know people that have been asked to be a panel expert in magazines on a regular basis. I've known some that have been asked to do columns and be the regular contributor. So as I said, there's so many opportunities. You have no idea what can come from these things. So it's just about putting yourself out there, thinking about the messages that you have to give to your audience, and getting it out there, because it just brings you so much benefit. And if you do it, especially in the reactive way and either way, actually, if you're pitching them, they'll come back to you with questions, and it doesn't have to be this, have a camera in your face for now. You never have to do that if you don't want to. A lot of my clients don't even do TV because they either don't want to, or they're not at that level. So you can absolutely start out small and in a safe way, and that's how I can help you and give you that support to do that. But what I will share with you as well for now, if you are interested in doing some press coverage, is I've got a media kit freebie, which you can download. It's a little guidebook, and I've got some templates in there for your actual media kit page. It's just about how you write your bio. I give you all the guidance on how to do all of that. So I will share that on the next page. There you go. And if you have any questions, here's my website, theprengine.co.uk. You can email me at Kerryn@theprengine.co.uk and /media kit freebie on my website for that download. So thank you very much. I wonder if there are any questions.
Hey, Kerryn. I'm not seeing, let me just refresh the page. I've got some questions for you.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. First of all, I love what you were doing with the logos, where it shows, that credibility, where they've been featured in the media. And I got to tell you, I don't know if this is true for you, but one of my pet peeves is when I see someone have all of those logos on their page, but there's never a link to it anywhere on the page. So they don't have like a separate, because I know that's a banner, but they don't have like a separate media page on their site going, hey, here's where I was on BBC or CNN or Elle magazine or whatever it is. They never have those links, and I'm like, hey, I'd want to read the article.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's actually a very good point. I've noticed that as well. So a lot of people, I advise my clients to have like a media page on their website. Absolutely. And you don't have to make it as complicated as having a whole extra page. But, you could just do it on your contact me page or your testimonials page or your wherever. But yes, having those links to the articles where you have been, it just makes it's that whole attitude of just being helpful, whether you're being helpful to your customers or to the journalists, always thinking ahead, what else can I give them? Yeah, what can I do? But yeah, absolutely, more people should have it. And I do see some people doing it from time to time. But yeah, not a lot of people do that.
Right. And I was just like, I would love to see that. Okay, so one of the questions I've got for you is like, how do you feel? Well, I'm pretty sure I know how journalists feel, but like, how do you feel about people using ChatGPT to write articles for these submissions, or is it frowned on?
Well, the journalists, they have to fact check everything. They don't tend to use articles that have been written by AI, and they will check it through the AI plagiarism things as well. So when you are writing an article, yes, I mean, you can brainstorm ideas, and I think that's a really good idea if you, writer's block, for example, just get a little bit of inspiration, but then absolutely write it yourself, because if it isn't, they won't use it.
Yes. And I think you'd already talked about, some things that journalists hate that will not get you featured. I was going to ask you about that. So what are perhaps a couple of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to media? Is it like thinking it's more difficult than it is, or?
Oh, absolutely. I do get a lot of people that say, that they are scared or that it takes too much time and effort. But once you have a very small list to start with, 3 to 5 outlets, it's then about building those relationships with the journalists. And I think the biggest mistake that I see is that the lack of sense of urgency. They go, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. No, the deadline's already passed. And I've had this recently with someone who they were like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it over the weekend. And I was like, no, the deadline is today at 5 o'clock. So they would have missed that opportunity. So it is having that sense of urgency. The journalists are on tight timelines. And if you put yourself in their shoes, if you're getting emails, another one is if you're getting emails from people that don't spell your name correctly or are cold calling you, and it's about something that has got nothing to do with you, then I just delete those emails. So now if you imagine a journalist is not getting one of those a day, not even one a week, they're getting up, like I know national editors, national newspapers, the editors are getting 1,000 a week. And, the average journalist is getting about 300 to 500 pictures a week.
Wow.
So you've really got, if you can, if they just, and they do read the emails. So if you can get the subject line really clear what it is, summarize what your point is, and then in your email show them that you've read their work and that you understand their audience, they're more likely to know that you've done that research and what you are sending them is something that they can use. So they will read on. Whereas if you just generally sending them something that you've sent to everyone, you can tell when something is generic. So personalization is so important. And also you don't have to write long emails. You just need to write a couple of lines and summarize, this is what I can talk about. Is this something of interest? They don't have all the time in the world. There's fewer of them doing more work. So if you can summarize it into 2 or 3 lines, they will love you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think no matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be two different, things. There's always going to be like evergreen kind of articles. It's always going to be true about your industry. But then there can also be something that blows up on the local and national level that makes whatever it is you do somehow much more relevant or exciting that day. And, and if you're already slightly visible, then you might get reached out to, or you might have more credibility if you reach out to them and say, hey, I want to talk about this.
Absolutely. And just thinking about like business leaders and in HR, for example, when the laws change around policies, that's a perfect time to put yourself forward even to a business publication and just say, hey, this is the policy that's changed, I can talk on this. They will bite off their arm to speak to you because they don't know, they might not have an expert on hand to talk about that kind of thing. So it is absolutely then that's called newsjacking. It's just being mindful of what the news is and where you can talk about it. But that's when you're an industry expert, you're a thought leader, you're on it, you're constantly looking for those opportunities as well. So so that's definitely the next level. And it's very effective when you get the timing. But again, a tip there is go early in the morning, because by midday, even by mid-morning, they've covered that, they've got their experts and they've moved on.
Yeah. And I think, especially when we get in our own heads, we get such tunnel vision about what it is that we do. And so it's just taking that step back and thinking from a broader perspective, how much more your topic can appeal to more people. So if you work in wellness, for example, then you might not have thought about how it impacts business and how the business world might be interested in it. You were thinking more wellness publications rather than business publications, but it could be that the business world has had a sudden epiphany and gone, hey, you know what, it'd help if our people were well. So you might have, kind of little synergy going with a business publication, and that
absolutely
could open you up to a whole new audience and perhaps new clients. Perhaps businesses would like to bring you in as a speaker, or to do like an employee wellness day or something like that.
Absolutely. And there really is so much unlimited potential, and I've seen it with clients, like from what they get as a result of it and the stages that they go on to speak at, and it's amazing. And they're just flabbergasted that, oh my gosh, this person's contacted me and now we're doing this together and having this event and doing that. It's incredible. And it's humbling to see the connections that can be made from it.
It is, it's tremendous. It is. Let's see, I've got some more things written down here. I love what you were talking about with the advertising versus the media. Because, you know, I don't know that I'd really sat and thought about it particularly, but you're so
Okay.
right. I'm not very tempted to click on an ad and then just go with that. It's very much more so what you see by word of mouth, or people
Yeah.
talking about their own business or their own product, because you get so much more of a flavor of who they are and what they do, that's so much more appealing than ads. So
Absolutely.
I love what you
Gosh,
were
yeah.
talking
I
about.
know. I'm always just, no, don't be paying for the ads. I mean, I had one, it was about 2 years ago. He was spending £4,000 a month on adverts on Facebook,
Oh wow.
and he wasn't seeing any results. So he
No.
did some coverage and he's got leads, and it cost him nothing, just a little bit of the time for me to teach him how to do it for himself. Yeah, and he's still doing it. So it's just, this is where it's just, this is why I'm so passionate about it.
Right.
You know, every business owner should be doing this, because why spend the money on the ads
Right.
that you aren't guaranteed to be getting that stream back from it? Yes, I mean, and obviously there's a level in your business where ads are necessary, but yeah, it just depends where you are.
I know, and you know, and I'm an absolute terrible gambler. Like I never win. So I'm
No,
sorry.
me neither.
But Facebook ads felt like that to me. It felt like just putting
Mm,
like $20 down on the tables in Vegas and just there you go, it's
never
gone.
see it again.
You know, I mean, I might have got a couple, you know, a couple of inquiries back, but then even when you responded to them, it was like nothing. It was crickets after that, and it was
Yeah,
just like this is this
yeah,
is not
it's not
this is
going to
not
help.
going to be my strategy. No, I'm gonna have to do something else.
But also, if you have a look at, say, for example, let's use the Financial Times, right?
Yeah.
Now, say you get even just a mention in an article on the Financial Times. Let's go for the front page, because I know how much that costs for an advert on the front page. It's a good couple of thousand. Now, yes, people will see you there, but will that trigger anything for them?
Right.
Unlikely, right? They're just going to go, okay, whatever, and just skim past it. Now, if they read an article and they see your name talking about that, that resonates on a deeper level, because now the FT have used you as that expert. So immediately on a subconscious level, you're more credible. Then they're going to go, oh, who is this? I mean, not in every case, but they're more likely to go, oh, right, I agree with what they say. Well, that's a really interesting point. Oh, let me go find out a little bit more about that. And that, so that it's an old way of measuring the value of PR. It's called advertising value equivalent, because often it's quite hard to measure like a sales person coming from your PR coverage unless you expressly get them in through using a certain funnel or asking them where did they hear about you. And it might be 6 months later, it might be 2 years later, right? So that's why that's a bit hard. But if you then look directly at the cost it would have cost you to place that advert on that FT front page versus getting a free mention in the article for 5 minutes of your time of responding to a journalist request, it's just a no-brainer. Thousands versus nothing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Um, okay, I've got one last question for you, Kerryn.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, what is your favorite success story or your biggest, your client's biggest pitch? You know, what would be your biggest, perhaps the biggest, or perhaps the most fun, or which is the best one you've had so far?
One actually was quite an interesting one. I stopped working with my client because the contract had come to an end, and it was about a year ago. And I just saw something the other day that was perfect. It was literally perfect for her, an opportunity, and she got in the Forbes magazine. So it was great. She was very excited about that. So it was nice just after all the time. And this is where the value add of relationships comes in. And it doesn't matter, you know, it's customer service, it's the journalists. It's always adding the value and being able to connect the journalist. And that helps my relationship with the journalist, because she knows she can rely on me to bring her good speakers when she needs it. And my client was ecstatic because she's been wanting to be in Forbes for a long time. So I was very pleased about that.
Oh yes, that's perfect. And
Yeah.
you had your clients come back and talk to you about, you know, increased revenue or business success or opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for example, that BBC one as well with my client who does the radiators in the, well, Helios, they do infrared heating. It's a very interesting one. Yeah, I mean, that one's another one. We had them on radio. They was getting nowhere in the beginning, and we did that coverage for them on BBC. We got them into quite a few others as well, and they've just exploded. Yeah, it's explosion. Yeah, they're on another level right now.
Oh yeah. And that's such a coup because I mean BBC is such a world recognized,
Absolutely.
very respected source.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just and this is where, people don't, and they didn't think they had a story. But, you've got, as a founder, you've got your personal story of how you got started. And I was going to talk about that in our talk, and I completely forgot about it. But, there's stories about how you got started and why you do what you do. There's stories about, things that you're bringing out if they are, say, for example, customer demand has inspired you to create this. That's a story for a business publication. There's stories about how you do things differently in your business. There's so many different stories, and actually the more you read and listen to podcasts, you can start then picking up those angles if you're consciously saying, oh right, okay, I want to see how they're talking about things and what that angle is. And I think that's another thing to your earlier question about what people make the mistake of. They often think they don't have the stories. To the other end, some people think they have all the stories when they don't. It has to be newsworthy. It has to relate to timeliness as well. There has to be, not always, but human interest in there as well. It's got to be that relevance, especially to the audience and the time.
Yeah. And I love, hearing people's stories and, especially seeing where they've pivoted at some point and refined what they were doing,
Yeah.
And
That's a story. Absolutely.
It just makes it so much more interesting at how they ended up at that point and where they are now with it, and how passionate they are about it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the thing, this is the human interest side, is I think people are more hooked in and want to hear how people did those things and why and what have they learned. And there's headlines like, I'm a wellness coach and this is what I do every morning. People want to get that idea of what are they missing out on, or what can I learn as well.
Yeah, it's inspirational. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to us today, Kerryn.
Oh, such a pleasure.
And Kerry has posted, she said, fabulous information. Thank you. She just checked out your media guide. Yay.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Yes. And Diane said, woo, to be featured on the BBC. I know. Yeah. I think we've all got that on our bucket lists now. So
it's not as hard as it is, as you think it is. I can help with that.
Right. And and as I was saying, I saw Kerryn speak at another event about a year ago, and one thing that really, I was listening along, and one thing that you'd said really perked up my ears, because you were talking about, and I forget the number of billions, but you were talking about the estimated kind of financial impact that the more like the intuitive or the spiritual, like leadership market was going to make, in the world economy.
Billions.
And yeah, it was billions. I forget the exact number you talked about. And I was like, wait, all of a sudden I was just like, wait, oh my gosh, yes, this is going to be a huge media thing. And, I don't know why I hadn't really put that together in my head. Like, wow, this could be a huge media thing.
Absolutely. Duh. Yeah, and it's growing. I mean, before I put that number in, I'd done research probably a year before that, and it was only, I think the number I gave in the talk where we spoke was 36 million or 34 billion, and then a year before that or 2 years before was only like 24 billion. So they'd already grown in that short amount of time. And I see it now because a lot of my clients are spiritual, intuitive healers. Yeah. And the pickup of press coverage now for people who are in that space, it's growing. It really is. It's still in the UK, there's still a bit of hesitancy to feature it, but it's growing. I see case studies all the time of articles and talking about it on podcasts and stuff. So absolutely, there is a change, 100%. There is more and more coverage for people in that area.
Are you telling me the British are more reserved about new ideas? No. No, who knew?
What? I did not say that. No, funny. Well, thank you so much for having me on today, Helen. That's been lovely to catch up with you as well.
Yes, it has been amazing. I'm gonna let me see. Let me end the video now. Here we go. Okay, let me just